The college concept in the community was new.
They weren't very happy. They thought it would fail. It was a waste of money.
I won't say it was easy, but it was interesting.
Today, as you look at this bustling 316-acre campus, it's hard to imagine the difficulties that took place in the mid-1940s in developing, at that time, Hagerstown Junior College. From its beginnings as Maryland's first junior college in the basement of Hagerstown High School, Hagerstown Junior College has grown to become Hagerstown Community College, with over 14,000 students each year enrolled in over 100 programs of study. It all began with a vision by then Superintendent of Washington County Schools, Benjamin Willis.
He was quite a forward-looking school superintendent at that time, and he just, I think, had the vision, and he thought this is a good place and we're going to make it go.
And in fact, Mr. Willis did make it go with the appointment of Dr. Alvy Eisenagel as dean and Lois Smith as counselor and registrar.
Dr. Willis said to me, and I want you to get out and have a class ready to start this fall. Well, I was just getting out of Columbia and came back, and he didn't say, here's a list of names and this is what I want you to do. He said, we have to recruit the entire county. So I got in the car and went out, went to high school, got the names of people who had just graduated from high school, and then went around and had them tell me where to find them. And some of them lived back farm lanes, and we recruited 96 students that first year. They weren't all full-time, and they weren't all interested in going to college. But of that 96, in 2 years' time, we graduated 25 with full credentials.
Of that first class of 96 students, most were there because of the federal government's GI Bill. These students, all veterans of World War II, simply did not have the money to attend college.
Life was a little tight. I mean, there was not much money. The maximum salary was about $1 or so an hour, and so there really weren't many benefits here at that time.
I think he was typical of most of the first class of people that we got in. He had just gotten out of the service. When he was in high school, like everybody else that we knew at that time, he had taken courses and didn't plan to go to college because, first of all, there was no money, and second of all, what would you do if you went to college? And he didn't particularly want to teach. So when he got out, there were a lot of people who applied to that first class that were saying, hooray, we have something to do with our lives. We had a stellar faculty. You couldn't have gotten a better faculty at Harvard or Yale. There was a woman by the name of Ennis Boyer who taught English. Miss Boyer had been a high school English teacher, always yearned to teach college. And to a person, you talk to that first class and they say she's the best English teacher they ever had.
Also instrumental to the early years of Hagerstown Junior College was Mr. John Baer.
People have no idea how important he was to the early days of education in this county and of the junior college. He attended state meetings with us. We went to Atlantic City that one time, remember, and went to all sorts of educational conferences, and he wouldn't have had to do that, but he was there with us and the faculty and everybody else who went to those meetings. And I think he was determined that Hagerstown would have a college.
The first year that I taught at Hagerstown High School, the Hagerstown Junior College was beginning. During that period, I was a counselor at Hagerstown High School. In 1953, the man who was the dean at that time left to take a job in Saudi Arabia. And when he left, he said to me, "Why don't you apply for the job?" To be very honest, I never applied for the job. The superintendent of schools came to me and made the offer. And so in January of 1953, I walked up the hall in the same building from what was Hagerstown High School to the junior college office and became the administrative head, and I was still called the dean.
One of his primary objectives as dean of HJC was to help boost the community's support of higher education.
And I would go out and talk to business and industries in the community. And when I would talk to them, they would say to me, "Well, Mr. Kepler, we think what you're saying is right, but you realize that if we give our employees more education, we're going to have to pay them more." And so, they really didn't want to have the economy of the community upset by having better educated people. You were not only trying to sell the idea of education to young people, you were trying to sell the idea of education to the community because they had to understand the value of it.
3 years after Atlee Kepler became the new dean of Hagerstown Junior College, it was decided that a larger facility was needed in order to accommodate the growing student body. So in September of 1956, the college moved to the newly built South Hagerstown High School campus and into its very own building, affectionately known as the Cracker Box.
I was on all three campuses. I'm one of the rare birds that went to the junior college when it was at Hagerstown High School, and I had one semester at the South High campus and then came here as a teacher or professor in 1962. The only major difference in moving from Hagerstown High School to South Hagerstown High was you had daytime classes and more of them at the South High campus, when at the old high school it was primarily nighttime classes. And no Saturday classes, no weekend semester or anything like that. So that was the biggest difference. And then of course you had a student body that probably doubled the first year that when you went to the South High campus.
While at the South High campus, enrollment continued to grow, and Dean Kepler became HJC's first official president. During the early part of the 1960s, enrollment grew to the point in which college officials found it necessary to move once again, but this time to establish its own independent campus with enough room for further growth. So in December of 1962, the Truman Smith Farm was purchased as the future site of Hagerstown Junior College. Just 3 years later, in March of 1965, groundbreaking ceremonies were held, and then on September 19, 1966, the first classes began on the new campus. As students began the semester, little did they know about the efforts that were undertaken to move the college from South High to Robinwood Drive.
Dr. Max Krieger and I were both hired on the same day, August 15, 1966. Back in those days, school didn't start until the middle of September. So Max and I were hired, and I found out that I had my master's degree for about 3 months, and I was going to be this crackerjack counselor, and it turned out that I moved furniture for almost the first month that I was hired. And nobody told me that. But we moved from the little Matchbox building at South High over to this campus. Harold Boyer had his big county commissioner sign on his little Nash, and then we would get Board of Education trucks, load them up, and make shuttle trips back and forth all day.
Moving just entailed the president of the college, Fred Otto, who was the registrar and the record keeper, and Miss Ardinger, President Kepler's secretary. They moved out in a pickup truck, and they tell some fabulous stories about Ethel Grace on the back of a pickup truck, roped in to the sideboard, trying to hold the file cabinets from coming open so that you wouldn't have a natural disaster.
So we really delivered everything here to set up this campus. And that was exciting too, because you were coming in here and the contractors were still cleaning up. It was a magnificent vision that Atlee and the rest of the Board of Trustees for the Board of Education had at that time.
When we moved to this campus, I can say that things started to look healthier than they had ever looked before. And the people in the community started realizing that the college was going to grow and was going to develop.
And that was seen in the continuous growth of the student body, many of whom were the first in their family to attend college.
I played basketball at South Hagerstown High School and had a desire to go to college, but not knowing about colleges and what it meant and how you simply go to college. The process was introduced to one Dr. Carl Galligan, who during that time went around to a number of the high schools, talked about Hagerstown Junior College and the importance of going there.
The students that at this institution were special to me because they were almost exclusively first-generation college. They came from family backgrounds where no one else had pursued higher education, and they were the pioneers within their family, and it really meant a lot for them to come and meet academic success here.
The new campus on Robinwood Drive really helped to make higher education accessible to a wide range of students. Attending HJC was even more attractive in April of 1968, when the college was granted its initial accreditation by the Middle States Association. In 1971, HJC was given approval by the state governor's office to establish its own board of trustees separate from the Washington County Public School Board.
Well, the board is the representative of the taxpayers, I guess you might say. We're the policy group, not the management group. We're responsible for selecting the president of the college and monitoring his or her performance. And all of that is through our responsibility for stewardship of the assets of the college.
The 1970s could arguably be considered the college's most active time of student life.
We had a very live campus life. It was also the time when you could drink under age 21. And when Louise Wine was the director of activities, she had many of these beer bashes that were very troublesome, but we waded through them. As we came into the next generations, I think students' attachment to the campus became less, and I go again to the fact of the jobs. You know, they have their part-time work, and it dragged them more away from being on campus. And what we tried to inculcate with the students in the student life and the activities areas was a different frame of reference for that. Professor Larry Sharp ran a newspaper. We had a very strong newspaper, and he and his editorial staff from year to year did very well. Our drama department, early on with the Robinwood Players, was very strong all the way through the current years with Mike Harsh. Our athletic department was smaller, but it was well grounded in what we had at that time with Irv Easterday as the director of athletics.
Irv Easterday was the foundation stone, and he had a vision. And in his vision, there were three people that were brought in: Jim Brown, Bo Myers, and myself. And those were three major hires, and we were all hired within the same year. And we were all kind of given the vision of excellence, and I guess you could say we all took the torch and ran with it.
From the 70s into the 1980s, more changes and increased enrollment continued at the college. In 1986, HJC said goodbye to its first president and trusted leader as Dr. Atlee Kepler retired, and the college welcomed in a new president, Dr. Norm Shea.
When I first arrived in 1986, the board made it quite clear to me they wanted the college more involved in the community. And so I spent a great deal of my own personal effort reaching out to the community, involving the college in all kinds of activities in the Washington County, Hagerstown area.
Atlee's last board meeting, my first board meeting, and Norm Shea's first board meeting, all were the same time. So it was, to some extent, although the board, other members of the board remained the same, to some extent was a clean sweep, new president, new direction of the board.
There were 9 construction projects while I was president. The building of the new library, the conversion of the old library to a student center or college center, the science wing, the child care center, and the business incubator were some of the projects completed while I was president. When I first arrived, I became aware of the building of the athletic center. It was initiated by James Brown, the then athletic director. At the time, the program was not completely funded and the planning was just starting. During the construction projects, the 9 projects that we completed while I was president, Phil Snodley, the former director of maintenance, physical plant, played a very key role in supervising the construction projects. He has literally saved the college thousands and thousands of dollars in overseeing the construction.
As construction projects helped to diversify the college, it became evident that technology was changing in the world, and Hagerstown Junior College would need to keep up with these changes.
The college had a handful of computers, and of course the computer age was beginning, the information age. And so we had to devote an enormous amount of effort and resources to bring the college up to speed, including one year we used about $1 million worth of surplus to purchase computers for student usage. So a major financial effort during the time I was here was bringing the college up to speed as far as the technological revolution was concerned.
As the 20th century drew to a close, the college's role in the community had evolved to the point where the college officials realized the name needed to more accurately reflect the institution's expanded mission. So in 1998, Hagerstown Junior College became Hagerstown Community College. The new millennia brought new changes to Hagerstown Community College when Norm Shea retired in 2002, which prompted the hiring of the college's third and current president, Dr. Guy Altieri.
The thing that attracted me was the college's potential. Had a rich history, being founded in 1946, had a good reputation for producing quality graduates and having those people go on to universities and doing extremely well. And the profile for Washington County was very, very positive in regard to being on the verge of accelerated growth and development.
To match the growing needs within the community, HCC felt it a priority to address this growth by expanding the number of programs of study from 40 to more than 100.
Our focus is to serve the local community. I like to refer to HCC as the community's college. And when people ask the question, where do our programs come from? They really come from the people of the county in regard to what do they need.
I have always been appreciative that the county commissioners are attuned to what goes on at the college, and they do their level best to fund us at a substantial level.
Across the country, community colleges are truly part of the community. They, in essence, are the community. And as we look towards even the next millennium, I think the value and importance of community college will be even greater, even more significant.
I think it'll be critical for the college to continuously look at its service area and to anticipate the changes in the service area and to be there as a critical component for both economic development and human development.
From the beginning, from the college's beginning, HCC recognized that there was a need to fill in this community. And the staff and the faculty that were hired in the early days and those that progressed as the years, the decades continued, they recognized that need and they continue to fulfill that need. HCC is what it is today, I believe, first and foremost, because it is an institution of transformation. And two things have made it an institution of transformation. One, it's an institution of knowledge, but secondly, it's an institution of compassion. And may that never change.